We're gonna be watching we're gonna be reacting to some videos today.
YouTube shorts. First we got...
Wait. No. Bruh.
Stop.
We're not reacting to YouTube shorts. We're reacting to stuff.
No, bruh. No.
Top 5 videos that make you terrified.
No.
Yes!
Izzy, no.
Which one should we do then?
Let's do... Okay.
Once you meet with
These
a TurboTax
scary
expert
TikTok
who will do your
videos that
taxes
make you
for you,
scared.
you're
Scary
free
and
to
creepy
do
TikTok
not
videos.
taxes.
Okay, just give
At
me
Domino's, we're tipping you $3 for
definitely
being a
jump
carry-out hero to use on next
Wait,
week's
this is
online
already
carry-out
reaction
order.
video.
CP video.
talking about, buddy?
No, it's not.
I see that blood in the ghost.
What? You saw what, little Jimmy? Jimmy, what did you see? You see a ghost?
Ghost in here?
No,
You need to put it like this.
ghost.
There's blood everywhere and the ghost
Going
is.
forward.
Yes.
No, we can't because they need to see it.
I can't hear. I guess we just have to put it like that.
Bruh.
Wow. Are they the ghosts fake?
I can't even hear it.
They're not
Yeah,
pretend.
that's a bad one.
Definitely, easily. No, we can't do that. He's reacting to that. Yes, dude. Yes.
Ready?
Go slow. So do this.
Is red just better? I think red's just louder. True story?
Story 1.
One day when I was a junior in high school, the bell had just rung, and I was on my way to art class. It was on the furthest end of the school, so I was walking pretty quickly to get there in time. All of a sudden, an announcement came on the intercom. It was the secretary from the front desk of the school. Her voice was shaky as she announced that the school had just been placed on lockdown, and everyone needed to get inside the room closest to them and follow lockdown procedures. Before hanging up, she said that this was not a drill. There was silence for a moment before total chaos erupted in the hallways. Everyone was running around and there were papers and books being scattered about. I was nearly to the art room at this point, so I ended up just sprinting there. When I got there, the room was bustling with people running in all different directions. After letting a few more people into the room, the teacher decided to close the door and lock it. We turned off the lights and then all gathered in the back of the classroom where we wouldn't be visible from the window in the door. It was almost completely silent in the room despite there being at least 30 people in there. I was doing my best not to expect the worst. Maybe this was just a false alarm. The teacher got a notification on her phone and we watched as her eyes grew wide as she read it. In a hushed voice, she informed us that there had been a murder in a neighborhood down the road from the school, and the police had reason to think the suspect was hiding somewhere nearby, possibly in the school. I couldn't believe what was happening. This seemed like something from a horror movie. One of the younger girls in the class was so scared that she was crying and shaking, and a few other kids were trying to comfort her. Because I was sitting closest to the supply closet, the teacher asked me to go in the closet and grab a blanket. The supply closet was a very spacious walk-in closet with rows of shelves on either side. I scanned the shelves looking for a blanket when all of a sudden I noticed something strange. In the back corner of the closet were long pieces of fabric hanging up that were used for sewing projects. Behind the fabric, I saw a pair of dirty shoes. Someone was hiding back there. I wondered why they weren't with the rest of the class when all of a sudden it hit me. Was that the murder suspect? My heart was beating like crazy. I knew the best thing I could do was pretend I didn't know the person was there. Trying to appear as calm as possible, I grabbed the blanket before turning off the lights in the closet and shutting the door. I handed the blanket to the girl before going up to the teacher and whispering to her what I had seen. I knew if the other students found out what I had seen, there would be a panic and that would not end well. I could see the fear in the teacher's eyes, but she said nothing, just picked up her phone and sent a message to the front desk. 10 minutes of silence went by before the teacher got another notification. She then stood up and told us that she had been told that we needed to walk calmly out of the classroom and go to the middle school across the street until the school was cleared. We did as we were told. Part of me was sure that the suspect was going to chase after us, but the closet door remained shut. Once we were out of the school, we began running at a full-on sprint until we reached the middle school. We stayed there for hours until our parents were eventually able to come pick us up. On the news that night, we found out that the SWAT team came to the school and was able to capture the suspect without anyone getting hurt. A shiver goes down my spine anytime I go into the closet, even now.
Dude, that...
Okay.
every time the story ends, we need to react.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna say, I wasn't necessarily scared, but
it's like that's like a situation that you would probably experience.
that's like a.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm scared of my closet.
But first,
there was a bat there once.
Let's
and I
review
cried.
it. So, like honestly, thinking about it, right now, it really sounds.
Let's give it a rating. Every single story we should
like
get a
that
rating.
one was like a 2 out of 10.
4 out of 10.
2 out of 10 for me. That was not
3
did
out
not
of 10
reach
for
us.
me. 3 out of 10 for me. Not the greatest.
Let's story 2.
One day I was walking to math class and one of my friends stopped me to ask if I was ready for the test we had that day. I told her I was confused because I thought the test wasn't until next week. She insisted that it was today, and she said she had been up all night studying for it. My heart sank. The test was a huge part of my grade and I wasn't prepared for it at all. I was so panicked that I told my friend to tell the teacher I was sick and I was going to hide in the bathroom. She told me she would. I quickly ducked into the nearest bathroom and went into the last stall, preparing to spend the next hour on my phone. I was hanging my backpack up on the hook on the stall door when all of a sudden an announcement came through on the intercom. It was the school principal. He said that the school was now under lockdown and that this was an emergency. Everyone was to get to the nearest classroom and follow lockdown procedures. At first, I assumed this was a drill until all the lights went out, leaving me in pitch darkness. This had never happened in any of our drills before. Was there actually a real emergency? I frantically texted my friend from math class and asked her if she knew what was going on. She texted me back right away and said that a male student had been seen threatening another male student over a knife. It was supposedly an argument over a girl, but the rumor was that the guy was completely deranged and there was no telling who he might hurt. I had little to no protection, so I was terrified. I climbed up on the toilet seat so no one would be able to see my feet, and I tried to stay as quiet as possible. Several minutes went by before I heard footsteps enter the bathroom. It was someone crying, but I couldn't figure out if it was a boy or a girl. They entered the stall next to me and closed the door. I heard something metal fall on the floor, and I looked down to see the point of a long silver knife. I don't know what went through my mind at that moment, but my sheer panic caused me to make a run for it. I unlocked the stall door and started sprinting through the hallways. I kept running until I got out of the school, my arms in the air as I came face to face with an army of police officers. After they patted me down, I explained exactly where the suspect was. Luckily, they were able to catch the guy without anyone getting hurt. It turned out that the guy didn't end up stabbing anyone, he just threatened him. He did, of course, still get into plenty of legal trouble, and he hasn't been back at school since.
Okay.
I
review.
think these are kind of bad.
Yeah, that one was really.
All of them are
There are like things that would happen that could.
like that's terrifying. That is. That's not what I want to watch. Scary stories. Scary stories. Let's just watch.
Let's
True.
go
Scary true stories.
That's
I doubt
obviously
that's-
Cap. Let's watch some SCP things actually.
Well, let's just find something. No.
Ooh, yeah, do that one. Those animated ones are actually good. So
Okay, let's watch this. This
one is probably going to be a little bit better. The last one, that whole thing was like. He's good.
The PA system crackled to life on a Thursday during second period in my junior year of high school. The familiar tones of the recorded voice filled my classroom.
Lockdown.
He literally
Locks.
did
Lights out of sight. Lockdown. Locks. Lights out of sight.
The words kept repeating as Mrs. Danbury paused at the board and looked up at the speaker in the corner of the room. "Okay, you all know what to do," she said, rushing toward the classroom door to shut and lock it. Nervous chatter went up among the students as we rose from our desks and moved into position against the wall. "Is this real?" my friend Colin asked as we sat on the floor with our backs to the wall. "Must be," I said. "They'd tell us if it was just a drill." The sound of helicopter rotors was faintly audible over the recorded voice of the lockdown alert, and the noise grew louder as we sat there in the dark classroom. After a few moments, it sounded like the helicopter was right over the school. A full minute passed before the helicopter moved again, the noise making it sound like it was going in circles above the campus. A loud bang, like a door flying open, sounded outside. Someone yelled in the hall, a sound that was quickly replaced by automatic gunfire. I slammed my hands over my ears, along with many other students. Some of the girls, and even a few of the boys, covered their mouths as they cried out softly. More gunfire erupted out in the hallway, It sounded as if there were 4 or 5 guns firing. An inhuman screeching sound pierced the air, making my eyes go wide. I looked over at Mrs. Danbury, whose face was drained of all color. She was the nearest to the door, the nearest to whatever the hell was going on in the hallway.
See?
The gunfire stopped, and I heard a man shout and then scream. His wail of pain stopped abruptly with a loud, crashing bang. I didn't have to see it to know that he'd been thrown into the lockers lining the hallway. The metallic bang was enough to tell me that. More gunfire sounded outside, and then more screaming. Then there was silence. For several seconds, we all listened hard for anything outside. The recorded voice was still going, and the helicopter was still faintly audible. The sound of running footsteps suddenly came to us from the hall. The footsteps stopped abruptly, and a terrible scream erupted just before the door to our classroom smashed in. A SWAT officer flew backward into the room and slammed into Mrs. Danbury's desk, which slid several feet from the impact. Cries of fear came from the students around me as they saw the soldier was missing an arm. He'd hit the desk with his mid-back and had come to rest at an angle that told us his spine was broken. Once the soldier came to rest, there was only silence from the hall. It went on for long enough that I was starting to think the danger had passed. Mrs. Danbury apparently thought the same thing, because she crawled toward the doorway where the smashed door was hanging open.
Mrs. Danbury.
I don't know what she was trying to do, but as soon as I saw her move toward the doorway, I wanted to tell her to stop. Still, I made no sound for fear of attracting whatever was outside, if there was anything there at all. She peeked her head around the door jamb to peer into the hall. Her left hand came up to her mouth, as if trying to keep herself from getting sick. She stood up and turned around to face us. "Okay, we need to move to another classroom," she said. "The hall looks..." A long, blistered, red and black arm with a claw-like hand darted down from the ceiling outside the doorway and grabbed Mrs. Danbury by the neck, stopping her words. It yanked her out of the classroom before any of us knew what was happening. We heard a scream and a thunk from outside. Then Mrs. Danbury appeared in the doorway again, only she didn't have any arms.
Oh my God.
Blood spewed from her massive wounds as she stepped into the room, looking back over her shoulder with a dazed look on her face. What she saw there snapped her out of it, and she started running toward the wall of windows opposite the doorway. Fountains of blood poured out of her as she ran past her desk, screaming. A monstrous, scarred figure that looked like a badly burned mix between a bear and a baboon darted through the doorway after our teacher. It leapt, smashing into Mrs. Danbury just as she reached the window. The two of them tumbled out, falling to the ground just a few feet below. My teacher screamed once more outside before her vocalization stopped with a terrible ripping sound. All of us students stayed frozen against the wall, staring at the broken window, waiting for the thing to come back in.
I love how the teacher
We
was
should
just
have
like,
run,
"Hey students,
but
we
we
need to
didn't.
go." Oh,
was
it
all
hurt
too
me.
much
I'm
for
leaving
us.
you. Bye.
Eventually,
Hashtag
the gruesome
wait, I-
sounds from outside stopped,
Missing my
but
arms.
none of us were willing to risk standing up and moving toward the window to see what was
I don't think
happening.
anybody.
Not long
That's
after
it.
those
We all
noises
knew it
stopped,
was an L.
we
all
heard a
knew the
flurry
bullet.
of
She
gunshots
sat there
from
and
far
stood up
off,
like an idiot.
likely off the high
That's
school
lost.
campus.
Yeah, it's like boom.
Hearing
your
those
own
faraway
fault.
shots snapped me out of shock. I stood up and moved slowly to the doorway. I looked out to see the hallway littered with dismembered bodies.
Oh no.
There was blood
Okay,
all over the place.
okay.
A man with a smashed head lay below a huge and bloody dent in several of the lockers across the hall. A few other guys and I led the rest of the class out. We headed toward the evacuation spot and were about halfway there when we ran into more police coming into the school. They took us to safety. We were told it was an escaped animal from the zoo. That's even what they said on the news that night. They said it was a bear, but I know what I saw. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't any animal I've ever seen. And the fact that there's a military research base not far from our school is just too much of a coincidence. But those of us who were in that classroom that day are smart enough to keep our mouths shut. But we know the truth. We'll always know the truth. Story.
First. Okay, first story. 9 out of 10.
No, I'm gonna give it. We have to be really judgy because there's more stories to come. So I'm gonna give it a 7.5 out of 10.
I'm gonna go 7.1.
Just the pure stupidity
of like
some of
the,
it.
that, like Mrs. Darren or whatever her name.
Like
what is
Mrs. Wonky.
L?
Like what?
Let's just call her Miss D.
I'm the
Mrs.
teacher.
D.
This is me. You guys can't see me right now, but I'm standing up and I'm like, oh, okay, it's okay. Literally dead SWAT people. Let's walk outside.
Yeah, look.
Class, we need the move.
Yeah.
I lost my arms. Bye.
Bro got an L.
The pure stupidity of her.
Like, just because of how
And
ridiculous
then she was gonna lead the
unreal.
monster to the kids. Like the
Like,
pure
bro.
stupidity of a teacher. 7.5, 7 actually, not even 7.5.
7.1 for me. I was thinking about it. It was just like the stupidity brought it down a lot. But then like
You can't have people that stupid in a horror story.
like the blood and all the stuff definitely gave it a
2. Dead.
Let's go.
All
Dead all
day.
day. Story 2.
Before the lockdown even started, I knew something weird was going on. And I wasn't the only one. It was my senior year, and I had a pretty easy schedule. It was spring, and I could see the end of high school on the horizon. But that day, a Tuesday, my concerns turned from the mundane to the insane. At first, I shrugged off the strange feelings I had. I thought the teachers were just having an off day. Or maybe it was me who was having the off day. I told myself to forget about it until lunch came around, and I went off campus to get a burger
After this
with my
video, I'm
buddy
gonna do
Tom.
some Roblox.
"What's up with the teachers today?" Tom asked, as we sat in the fast food drive-thru, waiting to pay and get our food. My turn. To Tom, who was usually about as an octogenarian with failing eyesight. "You noticed that too?" I asked. "Yeah, man. They're acting really strange. Mr. Bemis was just staring at me during first period. His eyes were all wide and blank. It was creepy as hell. Then during second period, Miss Delia forgot how to spell the word algebra. She just stood there at the board, her hand up, with the A and the L written. I swear, she stood there for a full minute before Courtney Miller asked her if she was all right. It was weird. Maybe they all got together and smoked a blunt this morning or something." I laughed at that, thinking about the teachers hotboxing one of their minivans. But the laughter didn't last long. Tom was right. Something funny was going on. "Yeah, Mr. Liu walked super slowly up and down the aisles while we were taking a test today," I said. "He never does that. He always sits at his desk and reads or something while we take tests. And how slow he was walking? You'd have to try really hard to walk that slowly. Plus, I caught a whiff of him as he walked by one time. He stank. He was wearing cologne or something, but I could smell something nasty underneath it." "You know what?" Tom said. "That made me remember something. You know how Miss Delia is always so prim and proper? She's a neat freak, right?" I nodded. I had Delia in one of my afternoon classes. "Well," Tom continued, "she looked kind of sloppy in class today. Her hair was frizzy, her makeup a little, I don't know, sloppy or something. It didn't connect until you said that about Mr. Liu stinking."
Purdue
my
University
gosh.
Global. Apply
Bruh.
now at purdueglobal.edu.
I'm sorry, guys, that we can't really get rid of ads.
Our conversation
We're
stopped
not gonna pay
as I
money
pulled
to
up to the
see
drive-thru
it.
window to complete the transaction. Then I drove to a nearby park where we sat on the hood of my Camry and ate, enjoying the spring day.
Fast forward.
We got back to school just
Why
in
would you
time
go
for
back to
class
school?
and went our
You
separate
have
ways.
to, unless
About 20 minutes into class, the lockdown started. I was in Mrs. Santiago's class when the alarm went off. Mrs. Santiago smiled, as if she'd been expecting it, which made me think it was just a drill. Although every other time they'd done a drill, they'd told us beforehand. "All right, class," Mrs. Santiago said. "We're doing something a little different today. Half of you are going to stay here in the classroom like a normal lockdown drill. The other half will follow me to another location. It's something new. We're trying to see how it works." I looked around, furrowing my brow. I didn't see the logic in it. Why would half of us leave the classroom to go somewhere else if there was a threat out there? A few other kids in the class seemed to share my concern, but most of them didn't care. They were simply willing to do what the teacher said. I waited for more information from Mrs. Santiago, but she didn't do anything for several minutes.
Dude, if
After
teachers
turning the
are
lights off
monsters,
and
it's
locking
so
the door.
obvious.
Prediction time.
She's the monster. That's it. That's the.
I think all the teachers are monsters, and then they're just gonna turn into like some zombie or something and start chasing the kids.
Yeah, like what the heck? But if it is, that's just gonna That's gonna be complaining because that's so obvious.
Yeah.
She just stood at the front of the class.
Real quick, if you don't want any pauses in your video, if you just want to watch this and don't sleep tonight, spelling, go on down to Mr. No Sleep, Dr. No Sleep's channel tonight, and well, you probably won't sleep.
Hands clasped behind
Big
her back,
thanks to him, by the way.
looking at us with a small smile on her lips. Finally, just when I was about to ask her what was going on, she split the class in half down the middle, telling those of us on the left side to come with her, and those on the right to stay in the classroom. I stood and lined up with the other kids on the left, while those on the right got against the wall. We followed Mrs. Santiago out of the classroom, taking a right. I was 3 kids behind her, peering around them to watch her, thinking about the strange ways teachers had been acting. She was in her 50s, with hair that had mostly gone from black to gray. She wore a floral print dress with frilly short sleeves.
Old lady to me.
As we walked down the hall, I saw a drop of blood crawl down the back of her arm from under the sleeve. It stopped just above her elbow. A bad feeling seated itself in my stomach as we reached the doors to the gym. Mrs. Santiago stepped aside and opened one of them to usher us inside. It was dark inside the gym because all the lights were off. As soon as I walked through the door, I stepped aside while the other kids walked past me into the darkness. I could hear some of them murmuring. They knew something was wrong. One of the students pulled out a phone and turned on the flashlight. The illumination revealed other people in the gym.
Oh my god,
Teachers,
I guessed it.
just standing there in the dark on either side of the doors, making a wide corridor in which the students now stood. There must have been a dozen of them, and as the flashlight came on, they moved in on the students. Screams bounced around the gym as the teachers attacked the students with knives and cleavers from the school kitchen.
Oh my
The
goodness.
sickening sound of metal piercing flesh and blood spilling to the glossy gym floor
Oh my
unleashed a
goodness.
deep fear inside me.
Okay, then what?
Since I'd stepped aside to the wall when I'd entered the gym, I was still in the
It's an
dark.
upgrading because we don't
I
predict
stumbled
it.
back toward the door, watching
still,
in
I can't
abject
predict
horror
it.
as knives
Oh
plunged into my fellow
okay,
students.
Yeah, we're blurring around.
Clammy, cold hands grabbed my shoulders. I panicked, throwing an elbow behind me and connecting with what felt like a nose and mouth. The hands came off of me as I turned around, seeing Mrs. Santiago standing there staring at me, her mouth split open and her nose
She's an old
bleeding.
lady, you got it.
I shoved past her in the doorway, trying to get away from the gym, but she grabbed my left arm with her right hand. At 18, I was much bigger and stronger than
Wallow
her.
up.
I shoved her as hard as I could. Something ripped, and she fell back against the gym door. But her hand still gripped my left arm above the elbow.
Oh gosh.
I scrambled, pulling at her severed arm, ripping it off of me and throwing it at her feet. I ran, looking back over my shoulder as Mrs. Santiago stood there, seemingly unaware that she'd just had her arm removed, staring at me as I sprinted down the hallway. I ran for the nearest exit through the empty hallways, past dark classrooms. The lockdown alarm was still blaring, but I barely noticed it. The sound of my heart beating seemed louder than any alarm could ever be. I slowed as I passed Tom's classroom, clarity coming into my thoughts. I wanted to run out, but thinking of Tom and my other friends made me think of all the students that would be in danger if I just ran away. I approached Tom's classroom slowly, glancing
We're
through
not
the
probably
slender
gonna watch
window
all
into
of
the
these
dark room.
because it's 32 minutes
I thought
long.
I had seen Tom's 5th period teacher, Mr. Pelham, in the gym. So when I didn't see anyone in the classroom, I banged on the door. Tom! I whispered loudly at the door between bangs. Tom, it's me, Nate, I said. Tom appeared out of the darkness. Nate? He said through the closed door.
At the end of
What are
it.
you doing? It's lockdown, man. Where's your teacher? I said. I don't know. He left like 5 minutes ago. Told us to stay put. Open the door. We've got to go, I said. The teachers, they're killing people. What? Tom said, smiling. Don't mess with me, man. This is serious. I stepped back from the door and glanced both ways down the hall. I didn't see anyone. I am serious, I said. Everyone needs to leave. Come on. Tom reached for the door handle, but a voice from inside the classroom stopped him. I couldn't hear exactly what they said, but Tom's response gave me a clue. I know we're not supposed to open the door, Tom said. But this is Nate. He's no school shooter. Tom opened the door and let me inside. I closed it behind me and looked into the darkness at the students sitting against the wall. We need to go, I told them. Now, something is seriously wrong. We're supposed to stay here, one girl whose name I didn't know said. That's what the drills are all about, remember?
Here, let's go sit over here.
The drills didn't have this in mind. It's the teachers. I watched them kill some of my classmates. There's something wrong with them. Haven't you noticed anything strange today? I could see in their eyes that many of the students had noticed, but none of them moved. All right, fine, I said. I'll go get help. Tom, you gonna stay here or come with me? I'm with you, man, Tom said, looking scared. Okay, I said to him. Then I turned to the other students. Someone call 911 if you haven't already. We have, someone said. They have police on the way. Lock the door behind us, Tom said to the nearest student as we turned to the door. It was tempting to hunker down and wait for the cops to show up. But seeing what I'd seen, there was no way I could do it. The teachers had keys to the classrooms after all.
Oh.
With these sitting ducks. I checked the hall before stepping out. Tom followed, shutting the doors softly behind us. We booked to the nearest exit and pushed on the metal bars to open the doors. They came open a few inches and stopped, the telltale rattle of chains coming from the outside. They locked the doors, I said in a harsh whisper.
Why is he
What the
smiling?
hell is going on here? Tom said.
Heck.
Let's try the faculty area, I said, noticing that we were near the admin offices. Maybe they left one of those unlocked. Tom nodded. We moved cautiously through the halls toward admin, listening hard and keeping our eyes peeled. We ducked through the doors denoting the faculty area and saw a flickering orange light coming from the teacher's lounge.
Oh
The door
no.
was closed, but, like most of the doors in the school, it had a thin rectangular window off-center through which the flickering light shone. I crept up to the door with Tom behind me. Taking a deep breath, I looked through the window. I saw a figure in the middle of the room staring right at me. I pulled my head back down. What?
No, thank you.
There's someone in there.
Good thing I blurred it, so.
Then stopped. The image of the figure in the room took a moment to solidify in my mind. I stuck my head up again and looked through the window. The figure
What the heck?
had been Sharon,
Okay.
floating in the middle of the room.
Yep.
His legs and arms outstretched to make an X with his body. He was naked, and there was a short
My
wooden spear jammed
gosh.
into his chest. The orange light was coming out of his eyes, nostrils, and wide
Oh
open
my
mouth,
Gosh.
as if from an inner fire.
Dude, that just got chills.
There were also red glowing words and symbols written on the floors and walls of the lounge, pulsating in time with the brighter light coming out of Sheridan's face. He floated just above a glowing circle on the floor, the edges of which were surrounded by strange symbols and words.
Oh
I
no.
couldn't read any of the words because they were in another language, but the symbols looked like they'd been taken right out of a horror movie.
Oh
How
no.
is this happening? Tom said, and I realized he was standing behind me, looking over my head through the window. He sounded on the verge of tears. This isn't supposed to happen, he continued. This is
He's like,
impossible.
what?
We need to get out of here, I said. Now.
Oh jeez. What is that running, dude?
I mean, could you draw better?
Admin office to the doors.
Yeah, I actually think I could.
I probably
Pushed on one of the doors, my own disappearing as it, too, only opened partially before it was stopped by exterior chains. The principal's office, I said. Maybe the window's open.
Bruh.
We can break one.
Oh my gosh.
Following along, wringing his hands. As soon as we got into the office, I could tell that the windows weren't designed to open. I started looking around for something heavy I could use to break one of the windows. I located a heavy teaching award on the desk
Ooh.
and picked it up. It was the shape of an apple attached to a wooden base. It weighed maybe 10 pounds.
Ooh,
I glanced down at the desk,
pretty heavy.
noticing that it was a calendar. I looked at yesterday's date, reading a note there. 5:30 p.m.
This is
Something fell
March.
together in my mind. I was about to tell Tom about it when he spoke. Someone's coming, he said.
Under the desk.
We ducked
Okay.
behind the
Yes.
Okay. This one's smart. These guys are a little bit smarter.
I heard the door to the office open, and I clutched the award in my sweaty hands,
Bruh.
mentally preparing myself to use it. Ted Oshman? A woman's voice said. Is that you? I stood up quickly, holding the heavy award over my head. It was Christina Henry, a pretty 20-something art teacher I'd had my junior year. We need to get out of here.
Okay, finally, someone else.
I don't know what's happening with the other teachers, but they're killing students. Yeah, no shit.
No crap. Don't say that word.
No poop. No poop. No poop.
No poop.
And she sounded genuinely
Or
scared.
no duh.
But I wasn't about to let her near me. Were you at the meeting?
You were
yesterday?
saying he doesn't
I
swear?
asked her, taking a
I
shot
don't
in
know.
the dark. She looked at me with open curiosity. The meeting? What are you talking about? Why is that important? Because I'm guessing that's the last time all the teachers were together in one room, I said. Whatever happened to them, someone did it on purpose. You walked past the teacher's lounge. You must have seen it. I was sick yesterday, Christina said, apparently seeing the logic in my thinking. I missed it. Now, can we please get out of here? Whoever chained up the doors had to be able to get back in here somehow. I have a key to all the exterior doors.
No.
We can find the
Don't
woman
trust her.
and get
Don't
out of
trust
here.
her.
I think I would actually trust her. Although that 50-year-old lady was smart as heck.
Yeah.
He was trying to tell me something. Let me think, I said to Christina, then looked down at the desk. Tom leaned down and put his hand on top of a clipboard on the desk. I glanced at it, seeing it was a list of names, teachers' names. At the top of the sheet, it read, faculty attendance. And right next to Tom's index finger was the name Christina Henry.
I knew it. I knew it.
I looked back up to see that she had a gun in her hand.
Oh no.
I like you guys, she said. I was scared, Tom. I really would have let you go. You're both respectful students. You're not disruptive. I really wish you would have believed me. She raised the gun. I threw the heavy award at her, ducking as I did so. She fired the gun, but missed as she dodged out of the way of the teacher's award. Tom dove over the desk and tackled Christina, slamming her against the wall. They both fell in a tangle on the ground.
Yeah, kill her.
Tom scrambled on top of her. She brought the gun up, but Tom caught her wrist with his left hand. With his right, he reached out and grabbed the award, then slammed
That's
it
gonna
down
hurt.
on her
Blur.
face once. It was all it took.
Yeah, I knew it should have.
Hello, man.
No.
It is time.
No.
Yes.
No.
Where's Mendy? Take off?
You might have.
You don't even know where he's at?
Well, what did you? Well, we have to end that story there. Okay, what would you rate this, Izzy? What would you rate
I
that?
rate that darn 9.0, dude. That was amazing. Like, holy
Yeah.
heck.
I'd say 8.9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you next time on Easy Games. Wait, do you have my phone number?
No, Izzy reactions and Briggs reactions.
Easy Reactions or Mr. Reacts?
Mr.
Team
Reacts.
Reacts?
Team Reacts. Goodbye.